Good morning, students. Class 10th. Today we are going to commence the chapter Sectors of Indian Economy. Sectors of Indian economy. Know how many sectors are there in Indian economy? The primary, the secondary, and the tertiary. So please open your books. Chapter 2nd. Let us look at these pictures. You will find that people are engaged in various economic activities. Some of these are activities producing goods, some others are producing services. These activities are happening around us every minute, even as we speak. How do we understand these activities? One way of doing this is to group them using some important criteria. These groups are also called sectors. There are many activities that are undertaken by directly using natural resources. Take for example the cultivation of cotton. It takes place with the crop season. For the growth of the cotton plants, we depend mainly but not entirely on natural factors like rainfall, sunshine and climate. The product of activities, cotton is a natural product. Similarly, in case of an activity like dairy, we are dependent on the biological process of the animals and availability of fodders. The product here, milk, also is a natural product. Similarly, mineral and ores are also natural products. When we produce a good by exploiting natural resources, it is an activity of primary sectors. Why primary? This is because it forms the base of all other products that we subsequently make. Since most of the natural products we get are from agriculture, dairy, fishing, forestry, these sectors are also called agricultural and related sector. So students, the first sector of Indian economy is primary activity, which includes all activities which are dependent on the nature. For example, agriculture is there, fishing is there, lumbering is there, dairy is there, forestry is there. These are all natural activities which are totally dependent on natural resources. Why these are called as primary activities? These are called as primary activities because this sector is a basic sector of other sectors. The other two sectors, which are primary and tertiary, these two sectors are dependent on this primary sector. The primary sector because it forms the future of the other two sectors. The products which are created here, which are obtained from the primary activities, like if you say agriculture. In agriculture, you obtain cultivation is done of wheat. Cultivation is done of sugarcane. Now, the cultivation of sugarcane and cultivation of wheat or any other crop is a primary activity. Now, the output of sugar, it is used in manufacturing of other products in industries. When you use them in industries, they are called as secondary activities. Flour, wheat is there, wheat is converted into flour, and that flour is converted into bread and other products, edible products. So when the manufacturing process starts, then it is secondary activity. But when the sources are obtained from natural activity like agriculture, like fishing is there, like forestry is there, like agriculture is there, and these are called as primary activities. It is also called as agricultural and related sector. It is also the primary activity sector is also known as secondary sector. Agricultural sector, sorry. Now, it is clear that primary activity, what type of activities are included in primary activities, why it is called as primary activities. The second one, the second sector of Indian economy is secondary sector. Secondary sector, when those natural products, they are converted into some finished products in industries by using technology, then it is called as secondary sector. The secondary sector covers activity in which natural products are changed into other forms through the way of manufacturing. Manufacturing in industries, manufacturing is done in industries through technology. that we associate with industrial activity. It is the next step of primary. The product is not produced by nature, but it has to be made, and therefore some processes of manufacturing is essential. The process of manufacturing is done in industries, factories, mills. This could be in the factory, workshop, or at home also. For example, using cotton fiber, the cultivation of cotton is a primary activity. But when you convert that cotton into finished product, into thread or in a cloth, then it is secondary activity. When it is sold in the market through retailing or wholesaling or using the various transportation method, then it is called as the tertiary activities. Later on, I will explain you what are tertiary. Now at present we are going with secondary activity. For example, using cotton fiber for plants, we spin yarns and weave cloth. Spin, you know what is charkha? The spinning. And weave cloth. Using sugar cane is using sugar cane. The cultivation of sugar cane is a primary activity. But when it is converted to in industries to the khandsari, you can say the khandsari or sugar, then it is secondary activity. When it is sold in the market in retail or wholesale, then it is tertiary activity. Since this sector gradually becomes associated with the different kinds of industries that come up and is also called as industrial sector. The use of industries in industries, these natural resources, these natural products like sugar cane, like flour, like cotton, they are converted into finished products. It is also called as industrial sector. Sorry. After primary and secondary, there is a third category of activities that fall under tertiary sector. It is different from the above two. The tertiary sector is totally different from the first two sectors, that is the primary and the secondary, because only the professions are included. Professions like doctor, like teacher, lecturer. These are called as tertiary activities, which you can say the profession of a doctor is a tertiary activity. Profession of a doctor is a tertiary activity. Therefore, it is different from the first two activities. These are activities that help in the development of the primary and secondary sector. These activities by themselves do not produce a good, but they are aid or a support for the production process. For example, goods are produced in the primary or secondary sector would need to be transported by trucks or trains and then sold in the wholesale or retail shop. At times, it may be necessary to store these in godowns. We also may need to talk to others over telephone or send letters, communication, or borrow money from banks to help production and trade transport. Transport, storage, communication, banking, trade are some examples of tertiary activities. Now, when you say that after primary and secondary sector, the tertiary sector, what type of activities? Selling the finished products in wholesale or retail is a tertiary activity. Now, for that purpose, you need loan from the banks. The banking, it is a tertiary activities. You have to transport it to the nearby or the other cities and towns through trucks or trains. That is also a tertiary activities. Now, if you are packing the finished products in the cartons, then it is also a tertiary activity. So all the three activities, they are interrelated. Primary is the basis of the economic activities, where the raw material is obtained, then it is converted into the finished products, that is the secondary activity. Those finished products are now sold in the market, that is the tertiary activity. Transport, storage, communication, banking, trade are some examples of tertiary activities. I hope it is very clear. Since these activities generate services rather than goods, the tertiary activity is also called as service sector. Since it gives an impetus to services, since it encourages services, therefore professions, therefore it is called as service sector. Service sector can include some essential services that may not directly help in the production of goods. For examples, we require teachers, doctors, and those who provide personal services such as washerman, barber, cobbler, lawyer, and the people to do administrative and accounting work. In recent times, certain new services based on information technology, such as internet cafe. It is also a profession. Wherever the profession is there, wherever the specialized services is provided by a person, it is called as tertiary activity. ATM booths, call centers, software companies have become important. These are all tertiary activities. Now, if you want to compare these three activities, how you are going to compare this? The various production activities in the primary sector and tertiary sectors produce a very large number of goods and services. So all the three activities, they produce large amount of services, they produce large number of goods and services. Also, the three sectors have a large number of people working in them to produce these goods and services. The next step, therefore, is to how much goods and services are produced and how many people work in each sector. In the economy, there could be one or more sectors which are dominant in the term of the total production and employment, while the other sectors are relatively small in size. Now, see, India is predominantly an agricultural country. So, most of the people, the 70% of the population is dependent on the primary activity, that is agriculture. Very less number of people. The second number is the tertiary activities, which also provides employment, but the number of people, they are less as comparison to the primary activities. Now, since the literacy is there, literacy is an important factor. Whether a person is classified to a tertiary activity or a secondary activity, the number of people involved in the tertiary sectors are even less. The highest number of population, the most people, the large percentage of populace, it is dependent on the primary activities. And on the second, the number of people, those who are employed in the secondary activities, they are rated at second place, and the third place, it is the tertiary sector. Now you see, now this is the modern era. People are, due to literacy, due to education, people are now increasing, the number is increasing in the tertiary sector, because people, it all depends, the profession and the services, they all depend on education, they all depend on literacy. Therefore, number of people these days in the modern era, it is the third sector is gaining more and more importance. How do we count the various goods and services and know the total production in each sector? With so many thousands of goods and services produced, you might think this is an impossible task. Not only would the task be enormous, you might also wonder how we can add up cars and computers and nails and furniture. It won't make sense. You are right in thinking so. To get around these problems, economics suggests that the values of goods and services should be used rather than adding up the actual numbers. For example, 10,000 kg of wheat is sold at 8 per kg, and the value of wheat will be 80. The value of 500 coconuts at rupees 10 per coconut will be 50,000. Similarly, the value of goods and services in the three sectors are calculated and added up. Remember, there is one precaution one has to take. Not every good that is produced and sold need to be counted. It makes sense only to include the final goods and services. The amount of the monetary value of final goods and services is included, is considered, but not the byproducts, but not the monetary value of the pre-products of that particular final good. For example, the cultivation of wheat is there. The cultivation, the cropping of wheat is there. Now the biscuits are manufactured out of wheat. So it is not like that. The value of the amount of wheat, the monetary value of wheat, then the cost incurred in grinding and converting it into flour, then making a dough, then converting it into a biscuit, and then our biscuits are sold. These monetary values at each steps are not added. but the monetary value of the final good, that is the biscuit, the monetary value of the final finished product biscuit is considered and it is added to the national, we call it GDP. Remember, there is one precaution one has to take. Not every good that is produced and sold need to be counted. At every step, grinding of the cultivation of wheat, then grinding it, converting into flour, what is the cost of that wheat, how many quintals, at what price, at the second, the amount of cost incurred in converting into flour, then manufacturing it to biscuits. All the three steps, the monetary value at each step is not added, but the monetary value of the final good, it is considered. This process is called as double counting. Only the final goods and service, the amount of final goods is considered, but double counting is avoided. It is not correct. Take for example, the farmer who sells wheat to flour mill at 8 per kg. The mill grinds the wheat and sells the flour to a biscuit company for rupees 10 per kg. The biscuit company uses the flour and things such as sugar and oil to make the packet of biscuits. It sells the biscuit in the market to consume for rupees 60. Biscuits are the final goods, the goods that reach the consumer. The biscuits are considered as the final goods. The monetary value of the final good is considered, it is added to the national income, but not the cost incurred in cultivation of wheat, in grinding, in converting into flour, then it converted into dough, and then the laborer, the cost incurred in given to the wage as a shape of wage to the laborers, it is not included, but the final monetary value of the biscuits is considered. Why are the only final goods and services counted? Final goods, the value of final goods is counted so as to calculate the correct amount of gross national product, the national income. We'll see what it is. In contrast to the final goods such as wheat and the wheat flour, in an example, are intermediate goods. These all are intermediate goods. Wheat, converting into flour, converting into dough, processing it to some other process, adding yeast to it, whatever it is. These are intermediate goods, but not the final. And final goods is the biscuit. Intermediate goods are using up and producing final goods and services. The value of final goods already includes the value of the intermediate goods that are used in making the final. Hence, the value of rupees 60 for the biscuit already includes the value of flour. Similarly, the value of all other intermediate goods would have been included to count the value of the flour and the wheat separately. Is therefore correct because then we would be counting the values of the same things a number of times. So to arrive to calculate the correct amount of the monetary value of that product, finished product, the amount of the monetary value of the final good is included. All the other intermediary steps, all the cost incurred in the intermediate goods are now included in the price in the cost of the final good. The value of, it is very important, now we have to underline this. The value of final goods and services produced in each sector during a particular year provides the total production of the sector for that year. And the sum of the production in the three sectors gives what is called as gross domestic product of a country. It is the value of all final goods and services produced within the country during the particular year. GDP shows how big the economy is. So gross domestic product is the amount of, the monetary value of goods and services produced within the country plus income from abroad. It is not mentioned there, income from abroad. But if the income from abroad is added to the final value of goods and services, then the gross domestic product is there. In India, this mammoth task of calculating national income, or you can say the gross domestic product, mammoth, huge, tedious, difficult, is done by the central government ministry. This work, this assignment, it is completed, it is done by the central government ministry. This ministry, with the help of various government departments of all the Indian states and union territories, collect information relating to the total volume of goods and services and the price, and then estimates the GDP. So this department, the central government ministry, it calculates the amounts, the monetary values of final goods and services produced in each sector, in the primary sector, in the secondary sector, and the tertiary sector, and add them up and sum them up to arrive at gross domestic product. History change in sectors. Historical change. Why there is a change in these three sectors? Why the people prefers one sector in comparison to the another? What is the reason behind it? What are the causes of these historical changes? Generally, it has been noted from the histories of many now developed countries that at initial stage of development, primary sector was the most important sector of the economic activity. Now here in this topic we are going to we are going to analyze that out of the three sectors, which is the most important nowadays. Just after independence, after 1947, India was facing an acute problem of shortage of food grains. Therefore, at that time, importance was given to the primary sector. Then, when the 5-year plan scheme was introduced, then the importance was given to the secondary sector. And now, in the modern era, in the 20th century, importance is being given to the tertiary sector. As the method of farming changed, the agricultural sector began to prosper. It produces much more food than before. Many people could now take up other activities. There were increasing number of craft persons and traders. Buying and selling activity increased many times. Because now the citizens, now the population is now, they are moving to the another sector. They are changing the sector. The people, those who were engaged in the primary, now moving to the secondary, or if they are more literate, if they are more educated, then they move to the tertiary sector. There were increasing number of the craft persons and traders. Buying and selling activities increased many times. Besides, there are also transporters, administrators, army, etc. However, at this stage, most of the goods produced were natural products from the primary sector, and most people were also employed in this sector. This is connected to the period, to the time, to the era just after the independence. Over a long time, and especially because new methods of manufacturing were introduced, factories came up and started expanding. Those people who had earlier worked on farms now began to work in factories in large number. People began to use many more goods that were produced in the factories at cheap rates. Secondary sector gradually becomes the most important in the total production and employment. Hence, over time, a shift has been taken place. This means that the importance of the sectors have changed. Now, people are now migrating from primary to secondary. Due to education, due to literacy, a more literate person will not ever go to the primary sector, will not ever go to the secondary sector, but a literate person, an educated person is interested more in the tertiary sector. In the past 100 years, there has been a further shift from secondary to the tertiary. Now, as the time is passing, as the modern era is there, as the 20th century is there, technologies are there, improving, scientific view of the people are changing, their thinking process is changing. The people are now giving more importance to the tertiary sector. The service sector has become most important in the terms of total production. Most of the working people are also employed in the service sector. This is the general pattern observed in developed countries. Now, developing and underdeveloped. The countries, those who are classified under the category of developed nations, you see the people are engaged in the tertiary sector. And the developing countries is a country where the population is engaged in the secondary sector. And the third one, the underdeveloped nations, the people are engaged in the primary sector. So now the conclusion about the India. Now until and unless India is, the people of India, the population of India, the citizens of India, if they are engaged in the primary sector, then India will remain a underdeveloped country for a long period of time. Now, countries those where the importance is given to the primary sector, they are not going to increase, they are not going to improve their status as developed or developing nations, but they are classified in the underdeveloping countries. Because more than half, 70 to 80% people are engaged in the primary sector. And a country and a nation which is developed, which is based on the primary sector for their development, they can't consider themselves, they can't be called as developed countries or developing countries. A nation, a country whose economy is based on the primary sector can never be called as developed or developing country. The last para of the day. What is the total production and employment in the three sectors of India? Over the year, have there been changes similar to the pattern observed for the developed countries? We shall see in the next section. So we'll continue with the next section. The page is over now. Tomorrow we'll continue from page number 24. Thank you. See you.